guys, Shanna here. Welcome back to Making Everyday Magic. If you are new, we are a homeschooling family of 4 who has a 5th grader and a 1st grader, and we like to focus on secular curriculum choices for our homeschool. Today, I am partnering up with some of those amazing secular homeschoolers who I haven't chatted with in such a long time here, and bringing you what I thought would be a super fun video idea. So you're gonna have to watch them all. I'll have a playlist linked right down below so that you can get caught up. I thought this would be so fun to do as a collaboration because there's gonna be so many different inputs and everything's gonna look different. So fun. So today we all are sharing what the early years of our homeschool look like. Guys, before we go any further, please scroll down, hit the big red subscribe button, turn on the bell for notifications, and give this video a thumbs up. Please head over and check out the playlist. Be sure to like and follow, subscribe to everyone there because they were so kind to share their time with me and come and talk with you about the early years of our homeschool. So I have been sharing here about homeschooling for just over 2 years, but we've been homeschooling for 6 years. So that means there's a few years in there that are unaccounted for. So you may be wondering, what did that look like? Were you always this put together? No, I was not. I have talked before, and I've got videos on it on like how we decided to homeschool, so I'm not gonna cover that again. Long story short, I kind of was always kind of called to do this, and for a lot of reasons. My own experience, not necessarily my own experience, but those close to me, loved ones' experience in the public school system, my experience was great. And because of where my oldest daughter was at with her abilities, makes her sound like she's like a superhero. I just distracted myself so horribly. Where my oldest daughter was at with the ways that she learned best and thinking about the way that schools were teaching things and how those weren't necessarily going to align, that she was ahead of where she needed to be. And if we could, I'd like to keep her there because obviously we'd gotten her there because that's where she was before she went to school. So it was one of those things where you guys know, also my husband wasn't fully on board because it's weird. We don't know anybody. It's a bunch of weirdo homeschoolers. We don't know what we're doing. We don't have any teaching degrees. What are we thinking? So yes, I have videos on all of that. And you guys know we started using Texas Tech because it checked our boxes and made us feel good and was good. So other than all of that, let's talk about the early years in our homeschool. So what we did, and this is how we got our budget. Basically, my girls, because I worked outside of the home. So I was a hairstylist and I would work, once we had kids especially, I tried to work evenings, 1 daytime a week, and Saturdays, because if you were unaware, you need to be able to cut people's hair when they're not at work because they're at work. So if you want the hair that comes on the head with the person to come in, you need to be able to kind of be flexible enough to do that when those people aren't at those other places. Okay, so I know you can follow me, this makes sense. So what I would do is I would work nights, Saturdays, and then like evening time, Saturdays, and like 1 daytime a week. Once we had kids. So once we did have kids, and you guys know my kids are 4 years apart, so there's quite a spread. I right at 5 weeks postpartum, I went back to work, and my kid was just real picky. But what we would do is basically we both worked in a similar area of town, so we lived on that side of town. So I would keep the baby all day, and then I would meet Paul at his office, and he would get off, and I would then drive to the salon, which was very close. We worked very close together, and then work for about 3 or 4 hours in the evening time, basically between breastfeeding schedules. And then we'd do it again the next day. And there was 1 day a week when I left her with a sitter for we lived about 30 minutes from the salon. So it was good to do about like 5 hours because I could get in and do like 2 full highlight color haircuts and like stagger them. And it worked. That's what worked for us. And then Saturdays were full days. And then as we kind of continued having a child, as time went on, this schedule became kind of hard. Okay. So as she got a little older, we did go ahead and sign her up for a Mother's Day Out program, local Methodist church. So it was 2 kind of like half days, but they were a little bit more extended than like a traditional Mother's Day Out, which was great because it gave me time to drop her off and get into the salon and get back. So her schedule was like, I want to say 8:30 to 2, which was perfect because again, it gave me that the daytime hours that I needed. I could still swap with my husband for the evening time hours, and then Saturdays were still available. I feel like I need to pause right here and mention my husband. I could lose gravity and fly off the face of the planet. And if it weren't for the fact that I breastfed our children, he would not need me at all. Like, he's so involved. He's such an amazing father. He's so hands-on. I recommend you get you one of those, okay? Because my life is so much easier because my husband is amazing. Hands down, I will acknowledge this every time. He is awesome. So other than the fact I made the milk, he don't need me. So basically, that was the way that our schedule worked. And it worked that way for years. I only kept her in day school 2 days a week because we didn't need any more than that. So then it came time, as she was getting older and it was getting closer, her very last year of Mother's Day out was like pre-K. So it was pre-K 4, and that year I had Marilyn. So I now had 2 kids, and Marilyn was too young to go to the Mother's Day out. So we had a sitter come to the house at that point, and we were still doing the same schedule. And then my husband's job kind of got a little bit more demanding as far as not being in the office as much. It wasn't always available on time, which got a little harder. Everything got a little harder. And sometime right before, like the year before my youngest was born, I started my little Etsy shop, and that had hugely taken off. So it was a lot of things. And we were deciding on homeschooling and talking that out. So it was one of those things where it's like something had to give. And what had to give, guys, was me. I went down to half-day Saturdays, and then at some point my income for my Etsy shop had surpassed my my hair income. And being a working parent is really, really, really hard. Being a parent who works nights and weekends is even harder. It is so hard. We were just never on the same path. Dinners were hard. Everything was really hard. And so we decided that the right thing to do, especially as Paul's career was changing a bit and becoming a bit more demanding, was that I would discontinue going into the salon. And so Amelia's pre-K 4 year was her last year like in school. And then the very next year, Marilyn was old enough to start. So Marilyn went 2 days a week, 8:30 to 2. And it was fine. And maybe it was 8:30 to noon because I didn't need the extended day because I was home. I don't quite remember. No, that wasn't the very next year. She still went 8:30 to 2 because for a whole year, I don't think I quit going to the salon until Marilyn was like 18 months old. But that first, Amelia was pre-K 4, and I continued going into the salon for like another year. And the way that we did that is when I went in for the daytime, I would pack her a bag because so much of the Texas Tech program was like workbooky things and things where if I did a good job, because we had 2 days without the baby. So if I did a good job on Tuesday, getting her set up with everything she needed to do and needed me for, and I still use this principle today, I, front load the mom heavy week with Mom and Me Monday. So if I did everything we needed to do together on Tuesday, and then I could set her up with like workbooky things and appy things, just sitting in a chair at the salon. And first kids are different than second kids. She didn't run around. She was so good, and she would sit there and do her work, and it was so good. And she got to know my clients so well. It was really great. It was a very great, wonderful, loving environment. It just wasn't sustainable. And so Marilyn's first year of 2-day preschool was the extended day. And so I'd use one day to really heavy school Amelia, and then the next day to work, and Amelia would do kind of some of her own work. And that was her kindergarten year. And it was really hard. It was really hard. It wasn't sustainable. And the switching kids and the running in and out and the nights and the weekends, and then the other business that I had started, it became too much. So the next fall, I did decide to stop going into the salon, and then Marilyn went 8:30, I think, to 12. So it just became easier at that point. Now, up until that point, as far as our homeschool, I was not very good at staying consistent. So we'd get kind of behind and then have to speed up and do extra because it was really hard to fit into that schedule. So it didn't quite work well. So then once we had kind of decided that I would quit going into the salon, it became honestly so much more freeing to me. So I still kind of view my life in the sense of like, that was real hard, this is easier. So it did work out. We did continue with the Texas Tech program for another year before and what I did is at the end of the first year, I was like, well, it's probably just because I haven't invested and I'm not doing it right. So it's probably better I just need to do a better job. So that next year I was able to do a better job, and it just wasn't a good fit for us. And that is when I branched out and went rogue and went fully unaccredited and did the first year of our Timberdoodle curriculum kits, which for Amelia's second grade year. Now I mentioned this is how we came up with our budget. So if you prepaid the year at the school, they gave you like a little discount. And so I think it was like, after the little discount, it came down to like 17, 18 something. And so we've always just taken $2,000 and moved that over. And that's been our homeschool budget per child, because that's what we paid on the care for them before. So we just, without thinking, just, and it was an amount that we were already used to paying. And so it just made sense for us. So that's how we decided that we could afford Texas Tech, is we just continued paying hers. And then as Marilyn kind of aged out of the Mother's Day Out system, that we just moved that money over, and that became her curriculum money, essentially. So that is how we did that. Now, Marilyn did not go, it's, the whole thing, the whole massive worldwide insanity that shut everything down. That happened in March of Marilyn's pre-K 3 year. And I had already really felt like we wouldn't do pre-K 4 because I was already homeschooling Big Sister. So why wouldn't I just start homeschooling her? Like, we just fold her right in. It's not like anything had to be established or done or set up. And it was honestly almost it was more inconvenient to take her and do that than it would be to just keep her. She'd started throwing more fits about going. It became a serious, hard struggle all the time. So I had already decided, I think all the tuition stuff would have been due at spring break. So I think I'd already decided that I wasn't going to send her back for pre-K 4. We were just going to go ahead and homeschool pre-K, because again, we were already doing it with Big Sister, and she wanted to come and do it. And she was really good because we had our rules established and life was good. So it made sense to go ahead and just kind of fold her into that and save that tuition money and use that for her curriculum. So that is how we decided to do that. And then everything shut down. So there was a moot point, and it just was what it was, and we just never went back. So that is how we decided how to do that, when to do that, how much to pay. And then that is when I started sharing here. So you guys can pick up, and so the early years of our homeschool were hard. Two young working parents established in their career, but working really hard to get going, starting businesses. And then I started the channel. Like, I don't know what I'm thinking. I like a challenge. I like to be busy. So that is how that happened, how it started. It took me a while to figure out that, getting scheduled. And again, that's something that I think really comes back to what I did. What I did was I was a self-employed booth rental hairstylist. So that meant I'm accounting for all of my payments. I am doing my own schedule. I am taking care of everything on my own. I'm keeping my schedule. I'm booking my clients. I've got to be timely. So I know that all fed really well into preparing to homeschool and getting me ready for the homeschool life. And then I just had to remember that when we started struggling. Sorry, battery died. Okay, as I was saying, I feel like everything that I was already doing for my career set me up for a great deal of success as far as being a homeschooling parent. So scheduling, making sure things stay on track. And I didn't do a good job of that the very first year. So then I recognized that I was really going to need to step it up, especially, again, my husband was initially apprehensive. So unless I was going to be able to have some proof in the pudding to show that this was a good way to do this, then it was going to be, not really an option. And one of the things that we did early on, and we kind of have gotten a little away from it, but I think it's because we're comfortable and we're good. We're really good. So initially, he was like, well, let's just put her in school for kinder, and if it doesn't work, then we can try it for first. And I was like, no, because then we'll never try it. What if we try it for kinder, and then if it doesn't work, we'll put her in? And he's like, okay. So what we agreed to do is every 6 months we would reevaluate. Every 6 months we would sit down, basically every semester, and say, is this the right path for us? Should we continue doing this? And we gave each other the opportunity to be really free and vocal with their opinion on that. Because we may not have the same opinion like we didn't when we started. So it is important to give each other the safe space to let them know that they can really honestly express their concerns. And my husband's concern, and really well-founded, was that you already were, how are you going to do this? He's like, I'll help you, I'll do everything I can, but how are you going to shoulder this? And as you can have heard, it meant that the rest of our life evolved. And that was because we felt like this was definitely, especially as we got better and got into doing it so much more, while we did have struggles and we were evaluating every 6 months on what was right and what wasn't right, we knew that this was the way to go. And now, 6 years later, hands down the best decision. So if you're starting, if you're new, it took us 2.5 homeschool years probably to get to the place, because even at 6 months, it's like, well, 6 months of our Timberdoodle curriculum kit, so it was like 2.5 years in. It's like, man, this is different. This is good. This is really good. And one of the things that helps, I think, is they do give you a schedule and a scheduler and all of that, which is great. They box it for you and send it to you, and that's what I need in life. Then at the end of that first year, it's like, it was night and day. So it took a while, okay? So this is why I'm so glad that there's so many of the moms coming here and chatting with us and like feeding into this collaboration, because my story is gonna be different than other people's. Other people might have like, I struggled for a while. I knew it was great. I knew it was worthwhile, but it took me a while to figure out how it really and truly fit into my life. And the way that it did is that my life had to change. And everybody had to be on board with that. And I had to have, had I not been able to build up the other business to replace my income, I don't know that this would have been an option. But because I had done that, and I mean, I genuinely got lucky that it was able to replace my income, but it softened the blow a great deal. I could work from home and do this, which I've still maintained to this day. You guys know I've got both the channels and still run the shop and work from home. So we're still able to make that happen. It's still got to be really diligent with our schedule and things like that. But the early years were a struggle bus. So I don't want you thinking that they weren't. And again, I thought this would be such a fun thing to hear all the different stories about. And I'm so excited to watch everybody else's videos. So please write on down, go to the playlist, watch, like, favorite, love, give everybody some love who's sharing with you, because these are real life confessions, guys. If I could come in here and social media filter this and tell you, like, just from the last couple of years that I've been sharing, like, it was always this way, it was amazing, and we had tea and crumpets every day. It was fantastic. Kids always listen great. Everything's wonderful. Hell nah, man, it was kind of insane. Absolutely insane. Not getting home until, 10 o'clock at night if it ran late. It took a lot. It took a lot. We suffered through it, and we are definitely stronger on the other side of that. And again, get yourself a good husband, man. Get him a good husband, a good daddy. Okay, so that's it. That's it. It was insane. It was insane. It was not pretty. It was a struggle, but we're better for it. And I know that my kids are better educated for it. So here we are. And I also, so total aside, I've got girls, and I always feel like there's such a greater responsibility raising girls who are going to run out and change the world and won't need a man and all those things. I want them to know that I worked, and that I worked hard, and that I worked to make the things that I wanted happen. I hope that they see that one day, and I hope that they love and appreciate that, and I hope that they understand you don't have to do what's not working. You can quit, you can do other things. I've quit things a few times, and quitting, I had a fully funded, established hairstyling business. It was really hard to quit that. It was hard to quit those people. For me, it was never necessarily about the hair, and it was always, always, always about the people. And for that, I love them all dearly, absolutely dearly. We still exchange Christmas cards, and I love seeing them, and it's catching up and watch their kids grow. And it's just, it was hard. It was hard to walk away from that, for sure. Absolutely, for sure. And that was one of the things my husband's concern. He's like, you're going to go from this out in the world to home, or are you going to be okay? And I do feel like, thanks guys, some of you have filled that void for me, because I'm still getting some of that amazing kind of adult interaction here, which I appreciate. I still have a creative outlet from so many of, both the channel and my shop. So that works out. But anyways, all of that to say, the early years were a shit show. I don't think I can say the early years were a shiz show. So don't worry, you're not alone. Guys, I hope you found this helpful, entertaining, or informative, because, well, my goal is to come here and motivate and let you know that it's not all morning baskets and perfectly color coordinated homes. It's not. So go give them some love. Scroll down, I don't know, I can't remember if I said this, hit the big red subscribe button, head on over to the comments or over on Instagram at Making Everyday Magic, and yeah, you'll get through the early years. There's gonna come a time you're gonna look back and you'll be like, wait a minute, we're in a sweet spot, and you wanna realize it. You've gotten there so slowly, so incrementally. Someday you're gonna realize, oh, I'm comfortable, I'm good, and I am confident. You'll get there, guys. I believe in you.